Welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Ukraine has again accused Russian troops of breaking a ceasefire as refugees are trying to leave. Attacks are said to continue despite a proposal from Russia to create safe escape routes for Ukrainian citizens. They lied to us. They told us there will be a ceasefire window during daylight, says the mayor of Mariupol, one of the worst affected cities. Ukraine says 2,000 civilians had been evacuated from Irpin, a Kiev suburb, under heavy attack. Meanwhile, President Volodymyr Zelensky has said everyone who commits atrocities against Ukraine's civilians will be punished. Ukrainian officials say Russia is striking civilian targets around the country, including hospitals, nurseries and schools. He said, "There will be no quiet place on earth for you, except for the grave." Russia's invasion of Ukraine has prompted foreign fighters to volunteer to join Ukrainian soldiers in defending the country. In footage distributed by the Ukrainian Armed Forces Press Service, 2 fighters, one from Mexico and another from the United Kingdom, were seen deployed in trenches in the Kiev region. Last week, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said 16,000 foreigners had volunteered to fight for the country.
I'm fighting for democracy because democracy is precious and one man shouldn't decide that another country shouldn't have it.
Boris Johnson is holding talks with the Canadian and Dutch Prime Ministers in London as Western powers prepare to agree further sanctions on Russia. But the government's refugee policy is coming under scrutiny after it was confirmed over the weekend that only 50 applicants had been successful so far. Boris Johnson said the UK would be very generous to refugees, but would not let people in without any checks.
What we won't do, let me be very clear, what we won't do is have a system where people can come into the UK without any checks or any controls at all. I don't think that is the right approach, but what we will do is have a system that is very, very generous.
The extensive criminal trial about the downing of flight MH17 has continued today.
De rechtbank leeft mee met de bevolking.
4 men could face life imprisonment if convicted. 3 suspects have not responded to calls from the court and have not appointed lawyers to represent them. All 298 people on board the Malaysia Airlines plane died, with authorities believing that pro-Russian separatists accidentally shot it down. At least 4 people, including 2 children, have died after an apartment block collapsed in Ivory Coast's commercial capital of Abidjan. Rescuers used torches to search through the mounds of broken concrete and carried out 30 people alive. Firefighters were called to the 5-story building in the Kokodi neighbourhood shortly after midnight. 13 people were taken to hospital. The number of people in the building when it collapsed was not immediately clear. Homes and vehicles were submerged by floodwater in the Malaysian capital Kuala Lumpur following torrential rains. The fire department travelled in rubber dinghies looking for residents in need of help, while others did their best to deal with the aftermath of floodwaters in their homes. Monday's downpour comes just weeks after around 120,000 people were displaced following severe flooding in 8 states in mid-December and early January. And Ed Sheeran has told the High Court he does not borrow ideas from unknown songwriters without their credit. Here, leaving court today, the singer-songwriter said he had cleared parts of songs with lots of unknown artists. Sammy Chokri and Ross O'Donoghue, here arriving at the trial in London, accuse him of copying parts of his 2017 hit, Shape of You. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.